Hi Scott, thanks for having your video analysis done with myself and Mel. Mel talked me through some of the issues that you'd highlighted when you saw her to get the video done, in the sense that you've been getting quite a lot of Achilles problems in both feet. I think you have obviously been under the care of a physio, and the physio's kind of recommended that you come and have a little look at how you're running, and we can send you sort of the full speed videos of how you run as well. I guess one of the things that perhaps you discussed with the physio was that, or perhaps you've come to this conclusion yourself, is that you're running a lot on your toes. And certainly when you watch you in kind of full speed, it does appear that you're very much up on your toes. What we find when we slow the video right down, it's not as bad as that, and actually you are getting kind of the full foot using the ground rather than just staying on your toes, which is what me and Mel initially thought when we watched you run from the sidelines. But what we'll see, if we just go through this a little bit, what we see here is actually, whilst you do land on your toe, you are actually coming through the whole foot. So you're not landing on your toe and toeing off, you are landing toe, and then the heel does come down, possibly less so on this side. What you see, and if we just go back to here, and this could be okay, so you're landing on the outside of your foot and then rolling in, and what appears to then happen is that the ankle collapses in. So every time you land, you're landing on the outside, which is quite normal, but then you've got that kind of sense of collapse where you then roll in, the ankle rolls in and the knee rolls in as well. So we land on the outside, ankle rolls in and knee rolls in. And what you see here on the right hand side, your right hand side is staying more on the toe than this left foot, which tends to go through the whole foot. So you're coming on your right foot in and you're still on your toe, and what's happening is that the ankle collapses in and the knee a little bit as well. So some of the work that we'd want to do with you in terms of strengthening up that kind of lower area to help protect your Achilles is actually looking at the strength within the foot, and there's quite a lot of stuff kind of written on improving your foot strength, and actually that has a knock-on effect to injury prevention. So I mean, at a base level, if you've ever read Running with the Kenyans or Born to Run, it's all about kind of how African runners have traditionally run bare feet, and that's from kind of childhood, where they've been like outside in bare feet, so they've got a really, really strong base. We don't, because we've always had stability trainers and expensive shoes that have kind of cosseted our feet, so we just don't have the mobility and the strength within our feet, and actually this can carry up into the Achilles and cause issues. So one of the first things that we would look at doing is looking at introducing some foot strengthening exercises. Again, not overdoing these, because if you haven't ever done any, suddenly doing them really rigorously and really often, you could end up sort of hurting yourself. So it's just kind of a phased approach to building up the strength in your foot. Another thing to think about is looking at your balance and single-legged balance drills, which will just be really important in terms of increasing the stability at the bottom end, so that Achilles isn't always under pressure every time your foot lands. So it is that whole kind of adage of, if you can't do it slowly, you can't do it fast. If you're not stable on one leg in slow motion, you're not going to be stable when you're trying to run, and that's where injuries do occur. So that detail of that is all kind of in the analysis document that you get accompanying this video. So kind of moving through, if we have another look, so you've got really good heel lift at the back, so there's not really an issue in terms of your hip extension, hip flexion and extension. You're getting quite a decent lift at the back. Not a huge amount of drive from the arms. if we see you going back the other way. And doing some sort of core work with a twist to kind of get that upper torso kind of moving a bit more. So what you want with your arms is to be imagining that you've got kind of parallel bars either side of you, and you want to kind of imagine that you've got like a rubber patch on your elbow, and actually what you're doing is you keep the elbow tracking along these parallel bars. So I would say that your legs, your arms, you're not getting a massive amount of drive from. So if you think about driving those elbows, so all the way along the parallel bars back, the other one obviously coming forward simultaneously, there shouldn't be any swinging or lateral movement in the arms, and they should drive steady parallel lines. And you think about like pocket to socket, so thumb to your shoulder, and then as they come down you come to your pocket. So pocket to socket in that kind of on those parallel bars, elbows tracking backwards and forwards, no lateral movement. The hands should be relaxed as well. They look fairly relaxed, but ensuring that that is the case. That will get kind of just generate a little bit more forward power. We did see there is a small hip drop on the left hand side, and I think Mel came back and videoed you again to see if that hip drop is a problem after you've done a run set, and actually what she found was that there wasn't really any difference. So there's a small amount of hip drop, and again in the analysis document we talk about the impact of having that hip drop and how it affects the kind of kinetic chain. But what we would encourage doing plenty of glute work and some planks and side planks just to ensure that that hip drop gets evened out. What we see, and it might be easier if we go to a different shot. So what we see is as you swing your leg through, we are crossing, as you land, you're crossing the centre line. So what ideally we want is the foot to land under the body. So as your foot swings, as your heel comes back, and as I said, you've got a good heel lift. So your heel comes back, and then you imagine it's a bit like a slingshot. So the further you can get your heel back and up, it's like you letting go of the slingshot, and all the energy then gets propelled forward, and that's what gives you your propulsion. What you want then is as that foot comes under the body, it lands under your centre of gravity, directly under the hip. What's happening is we have a bit of a crossover, so you're actually landing just about on the midline, sometimes a little bit past the midline, and what you can see there is that hip drop on the left hand side. So as you sort of swing and land, you're getting that hip drop on the left hand side. So if we keep going through, see again, the foot is landing inside of the hip bone, which means that then the knee is in turning and the ankle's got that opportunity. So what happens is you land on the outside of your foot, but under the centre of your body rather than under the line of the hip. So then the knee sort of folds in and you get that kind of collapse through. And it's just what you want is to be looking at building sort of those parallel line strengths so that everything's tracking in the right direction and there's not that pull then at the bottom end on the Achilles. So what we'd recommend for that is things like tramline lunges and just getting yourself really used to like lunging with your knee tracking over your ankle and everything tracking in a straight line from your hip. And what that will do is strengthen up the muscles with the right sort of neurological pattern so that you're not letting that knee or that ankle swing in. So let's have another look. So you see there's a little bit of hip drop that makes a collapse. And again, we're landing inside. So what we would really want ideally is for the foot to be landing more here. and actually what we've got is it's swinging inside that line, and of course that it's a bit like in swimming, that causes different effects throughout the run. So you see here you land on the outside of your foot and kind of collapsing a little bit worse. I think on the right hand side, actually, right hand side you've got more of a collapse, and that's where your hip drops down on. So your right hand side, your right leg swings in more and lands further inside the hip line, and as it lands you see that left hip kind of dropping. So what we would look at is to look at the hip drop as an issue. We'd look at glute strengthening and side planks, core work. We would then look at the tramline lunges to get your legs sort of tracking and strong in that kind of parallel zone underneath the hip and keeping the knee over the top of the ankle. And then looking at some other drills that will keep that kind of parallel, no crossover, and that should start to solve some of those problems by reducing that imbalance. Okay, let's have you coming towards us. Okay, so you see there, you can see that little bit collapse at the front. You see that crossover. I think we could get a little bit more drive out of those arms, a little bit less lateral movement. What we see through most of your running is also that you're looking down rather than straight ahead, and actually what that will do is it sort of encourages more of a kind of collapse forward, rather than what you want to be doing is looking forwards, and so your chest is like open, and you're kind of pushing forwards and down, so you're levering that forward motion from the ankles, but your body is in a straight line. There's no kind of bend or crouching forwards. So you can see that foot sort of landing on the outside of the foot here. And then you get that small sense of collapse where we need to kind of strengthen up, get that cadence going so there's not too much pressure going through the Achilles. Now I'll just have another look the other way. So some of these are really small fixes, like the arms, getting the arms moving more parallel, a bit stronger, less lateral movement, not looking down. They're things that we can do very, very easily. The bottom end stuff is a little bit more kind of perseverance in terms of just strengthening up the feet, strengthening up the glutes, making sure that we're kind of getting the right motion and movement patterns, and that will happen if you kind of consistently do the drills and consistently do the strength and mobility kind of exercises that we have prescribed for you. So in summary, there's a lot of good stuff going on with your running, and the stuff that we're focusing on is where we don't want you to get any more injured or to sort of start feeling more effects of the Achilles problem. So the summary would be getting you landing kind of on the midfoot, not too predominantly on the toe, but obviously it's worse on one side than the other. Getting the knees to track over the ankles under the hip, so that we don't have that swinging in past the midline, landing on the outside of the foot, small collapse, and then having to kind of start the process all again. Working through the hip drop on the left hand side, making sure that gets tightened up and there's no weakness in that area, making sure that the arms are moving nice and parallel, and that you're looking forwards when you run rather than looking down. So if you've got any questions at all, I'll be really happy to go through any of the drills with you. We've tried to put as many links into the document as we can, but obviously sometimes it's easier just to double check with us that you're doing them right, and we'd be more than happy to do that. So good luck, enjoy, happy running, and any questions please do get back to me. Thanks.